Bonjour à toutes et à tous, Arnaud Violent, je suis le fondateur de Safety. On va parler connectivité, mais on va parler surtout sécurité, Safety, d'où le nom. Alors on a parlé beaucoup d'aviation commerciale, nous on se focalise sur l'aviation générale. Et quand on se pose la question de la sécurité dans l'aviation générale, on se pose la question des taux de mortalité. Il n'existe pas véritablement de statistiques comparables, et donc on a pris une approximation pour regarder ces statistiques, et on est arrivé à la conclusion qu'il y avait un facteur de 100. Savoir que l'aviation générale est 100 fois plus mortelle, peu ou prou, par rapport à l'aviation commerciale. Et nous posons le diagnostic que c'est intenable au regard de la densification du trafic en basse et moyenne altitude, des trafics de drones, les drones récréationnels, les drones de mission, on en parle de plus en plus, et au regard de l'émergence de cette mobilité interurbaine dont on parle beaucoup, les City Airbus, les Yang, qui vont arriver dans les 5 à 10 ans qui viennent en termes de déploiement. Donc, au même titre qu'il y a eu dans l'automobile une prise de conscience dans les années 70 où il a fallu développer des solutions d'ABS, d'airbag, etc., nous prenons le parti de complètement réfléchir et de reprendre d'une feuille blanche tout ce qui se passe autour du pilote d'aviation générale, à savoir l'avion léger, l'ULM, l'hélicoptère, le planeur. Et nous en sommes arrivés, après avoir rencontré beaucoup d'entre eux, un fameux Voice of Customer, on a épluché les rapports du BEA évidemment, et on a écouté surtout les pilotes qui se trouvent souvent seuls dans leur cockpit. Ça c'est un problème, qui volent peu, 15 à 20 heures par an en moyenne. Et on s'est dit qu'il était possible de mettre dans un boîtier qui est portatif, qui est ici, qui va être introduit, dévoilé lors du Salon du Bourget 2019 et qui va être commercialisé en Europe francophone fin d'année prochaine, des fonctionnalités qui permettent d'éviter ces écueils. Une des fonctionnalités qu'on a développées lors du CES de Las Vegas, c'est ce qu'on appelle les alertes non explicites. Nous sommes victimes de surdité inattentionnelle, nous avons des limites du facteur humain, qui même si l'avion envoie une alerte, un bip, à 1200 Hz, comme c'est le cas sur une célèbre vidéo de YouTube où vous voyez un avion piloté par 3 pilotes chevronnés qui sont en phase finale d'atterrissage sur Megaides, eh bien, ils ne l'entendent pas, même si elle hurle dans cette vidéo. Et donc, le boîtier va venir introduire une gradation multisensorielle de façon à ce qu'on comprenne la criticité du moment de l'arrivée. 15 secondes avant l'atterrissage réel, il va y avoir une sensibilisation du pilote. Ça, c'est une première fonctionnalité. D'autres fonctionnalités, par exemple, on a l'e-call dans l'automobile. Donc, on regarde tout ce qui se passe dans le sport, l'automobile, dans la façon dont on gère le facteur humain. On a l'emergency call, encore une fois, qui permet d'avoir une assistance aux pilotes lorsqu'ils ont une difficulté. Eh bien, nous réfléchissons avec les pilotes à nous dire dans quel cas de figure pouvons-nous mettre en œuvre un tel système de façon déclenchée par le pilote ou de façon automatique. Donc voilà, ça, ce sont les sujets sur lesquels travaille Safety. Nous sommes sur le facteur humain. Nous sommes sur ce facteur humain pour tous, donc pour le pilote privé du dimanche. Et également, on a vu ce matin le mot SPO qui a été mentionné, le Single Pilot Operation. Nous pensons que nous allons arriver dans une décennie ou dans les 2 décennies où nous aurons du One Pilot Operation, que ce soit dans les hélicoptères, que ce soit dans les futurs aéronefs ou voire même dans la mobilité interurbaine avec des Safety Pilots. Il va falloir comprendre dans quelle mesure le pilote prend quelle action. Et donc pour cela, il y a besoin d'objectiver ce qui se passe dans un cockpit. Et d'une certaine façon, ces Safety Box, encore une fois, qui sera commercialisé en 2019, a vocation à jouer un premier rôle dans cette compréhension-là. Voilà. Donc nous sommes accélérés chez Airbus, nous sommes incubés au CERN et nous accueillons tous les acteurs, start-up, centres de recherche, grands groupes qui ont envie de craquer, comme on dit aux États-Unis, de crack the case d'accidents aujourd'hui qui sont inacceptables et qui le seront de plus en plus dans les décennies à venir. Voilà. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Hier, pour les bacheliers de France, c'était l'épreuve de langue vivante. Donc aujourd'hui, nous avons un de nos panélistes qui n'est pas francophone. Aussi, nous avons décidé de faire cette table ronde en anglais. Si vous ne vous sentez pas de suivre dans la langue de Shakespeare, il y a des casques à l'entrée pour avoir une traduction simultanée. Donc n'hésitez pas à aller en chercher. So I switch to English. So my name is Stefan Brabensky. I'm the chief editor of the Aerospatial magazine. If you don't know us, go fetch on the web. You won't regret it. And we are talking about connectivity in the air. Well, it's a really complex issue with multiple layers of users, players, final users, you, me, airlines, avionics providers, system providers, service providers, satellite bandwidth providers, and even satellite manufacturers beyond them. And unlike what maybe the title of this roundtable would seem to mean, this is not really already a mature market. It's still in the making. So before looking how to go further, we will have a look at how to get there first. So to discuss this topic with us today, we have Rigail, who is Executive Vice President of Air France in charge of customer relations. We have Vincent, I still can't get your name. Vincent Megaides from Thales, who is Executive Vice President in charge of strategy for commercial avionics. That's it? Okay. And we have Steve Collar, who is the Chairman and CEO of SES, the currently largest satellite operator in the world. So to try to remain logical, we will follow the flow of the demand. So you are the users, you will have your time to ask questions after that. But we will start with Rigail from Air France, who will tell us what is the demand of the market and what is their demand, and we'll see after that how the industry is responding to this demand. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Connectivity is really a big project for Air France and a priority now. It has not always been the case because the customers a few years ago were not so much demanding for connectivity, but now it's clear connectivity is a real criteria for the choice of the customer. So we are entering this big adventure. I say adventure because, like you say, it's not very mature. We have all our 787 fleet connected with Panasonic. We will deploy this autumn connectivity solution from GoGo, a 2KU system for the one who know everything about connectivity, for the 777 and the 330. And we will also connect our medium-haul fleet, Airbus fleet, with a partnership between Orange and Global Ego Entertainment. So for us, connectivity is really a brand new experience on board. And bringing the internet on board, being able to surf, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So we see 4 other major benefits of the connectivity. The first one, and it's not obvious, it's entertainment. You know that on medium-haul aircraft, today we don't have seatback screen on all aircraft, and our customer asks for entertainment. And with connectivity, you have a connectivity server where you can store movies, TV shows, and customer can stream them on their personal devices, smartphones, laptop, tablets. So it's a huge benefit because they will have entertainment on all the flight and not only on long haul. The second benefit is we will be able to refresh, update this content very quickly and to add new type of content like live TV. I'm sure that there are football players or amateurs. And of course, you need real-time TV shows for sports or anything. So this is the first benefit. Second one is that connectivity allows you to bring new services to your customer. Of course, with connectivity on the portal, they will be able to see the update information about their journey, about their luggage, about their connection. We have 50% of our customers that are connected in Charles de Gaulle. Connection not in Charles de Gaulle, but everywhere is a stressful experience. So they need reassurance and information. And we will provide a chatbot to give them this information, to give them their boarding pass, the map, how to find the new gate. And if there is a disruption, delay, to send them their rerouting and boarding pass. So without connectivity, of course, this kind of technology wouldn't be able to be there on board. And in matter of services, there is also the fact that our customer will be able to plan their journey on board. If you didn't have any time to plan it, you will be able to see personalized travel guides on your destination. You will be able to book for accommodation, to book for taxi, to book for activities like, I don't know, concerts or whale watching. So this is a second major benefit. The third one, the third big impact is duty-free. You know how we make duty-free on board with the classical trolley on board. We think that with connectivity, the digital retail will maybe not replace in the short term, but complete, and in the long term, surely replace the classical duty-free. It will allow us to have new means of payments, and payment is key for the customer experience. New means of delivery, either at the gate or at home, and new range of products. Of course, because you don't have any physical constraints, you can offer much more variety of products, and for example, groceries. If you come home, you can order groceries. And the fourth real benefit is that connectivity will empower our crew members. In Air France, all our cabin crew, and I know there are some of them here, and pilots are equipped with tablets, with iPads. But the problem is, once the plane takes off, you are offline. You don't have any refresh data. So with connectivity, our cabin crew will be able to assist the passengers with the latest informations and personalized offers. We can also forecast also that the cabin crew can warn the maintenance teams about, I don't know, a broken arm leg or broken screen, and during the flight send all the information photos to enable the maintenance teams to prepare themselves and react very quickly to maintain the cabin. For the pilots, I think there is a whole new range of opportunities. We are preparing on the pilot iPads a view of the weather forecast all along the journey so that they can adapt their route. You can think of fuel optimization, route optimization. Of course, it won't replace in the short term the secure data of the ACARS, but it will allow a much better view of what is happening. And you can also think of medical assistance. You know that it's very often that we have problems of people in pain, illness, and we don't have systematically a doctor on board. So you can have video chat to assist your passenger on board. So you see, and I think it's just the beginning of what we can see of kind of usage.
Thank you very much. So we'll see all the things you want to do with connectivity, how the industry can answer all these demands with products adapted to the need.
So, well, in Thales, the way we view it, and thank you for the introduction, and because it brought a very wide, different usage type from the cabin to the cockpit. And I think at the beginning, connectivity must be considered regarding if it's either for passenger or for crew member application. On the passenger side, okay, let's begin from a passenger experience. The question about connectivity, and as Thales, we are a connectivity solution provider, but we are also an in-flight entertainment provider. It's all about having a seamless experience and how we can bring this seamless experience for the benefits of the passenger, that we are all. Also seamless experience for the airline, because they want to have an easy integration into their IT system. They want to have ability to manage, to supervise the network, to inject their application, their different usage, and as well also having a seamless experience, because provider like us, we provide the layers of cyber security that makes the network safe, not in terms of aviation, in terms of cyber security, because in that case, on the cabin side for passenger, you gather personal data of the passenger, you gather credit card numbers for payments if you develop, for example, e-shopping on board, etc. So there is all these layers of different applications where really the experience for the passenger and the airlines must be relatively seamless. And the third point, of course, as a technological provider, is to have the right product at the right time in terms of maturity, in terms of ability to capture the maximum bandwidth provided by the latest generation of satellites, and also minimizing what we call the swap, the size, weight, and power, to ease the integration, because at the end, an aircraft on ground is an aircraft that is not generating revenue. So this is for the cabin experience.
And for the cockpit experience?
Well, in the cockpit, in that case, you must consider that there is two cockpits. There is what we call the aircraft control domain, and really this is the core avionics, core cockpit domain. And today, there is no connectivity on board, and the only connectivity is the pilot receiving the ACARS message and taking the right level of action regarding what he has received on the ACARS. And there is all this domain that is in between, what we call the airline information service domain, that is really a reserved domain for crew members, for pilots, where they can receive information from the open world and use it for really operational efficiencies. And this is where we believe also connectivity will bring a lot in terms of operational efficiencies. Having the latest en route weather update, having information about the traffic at gate, having information about what's going on about the next leg for some passenger, if they are in late or not. So this is interesting information. And the question here is how we progressively connect this middle domain with either the passenger domain, because some information might interest the passengers to know what will be the which gate they will find their next leg and so on, and also how we connect with all, of course, the safety and the certification issue, this middle connectivity domain with the really reserved aircraft control domain, which is really 100% safe and must remain safe for that point.
Well, that brings us to the provider of the connectivity by itself with the satellites. Steve, you have a fleet that provides capacities in KU, KA, geostationary, MEO orbit. Do you have the capability today to provide coverage for all these services, or is it something that will come in the near future? And what does it represent in your overall market?
Thanks, Stefan. So first of all, apologies. In case it wasn't obvious, I'm the reason that we're all speaking English. And so I really apologize for that. Yeah, and to say a couple of things about SES. So SES is the largest satellite operator, as Stefan said, and in exactly the same way that when we deliver direct-to-home TV experience for here in France or in the UK or in Germany, in France we sit behind Canal+, and they deliver service across our satellites. The same with Sky in Germany or Sky in the UK, they deliver across our satellites. And for aircraft connectivity, our customers and those that deliver service across our satellites are Thales and also Gogo, Global Eagle, and Panasonic. So you have a chain of delivery through satellites to satellite service providers to airlines that all have to bring a model together that works ultimately for you and me when we all then go on planes and fly and use the experience. We deliver service to about 2,600 aircraft today, so 2,600 aircraft of the approximately 5,000 connected aircraft. And so half approximately are supplied in some way, shape or form by SES through our customers. And our customers deliver service to 35 airlines on a global basis. So when you think about it in those terms, it sounds fairly large and fairly impressive and fairly mature. But I think Anne's experience at Air France and frankly a number of other airlines' experience is that it's a long way from being mature. And it's a long way from us being able to deliver the kinds of service that we collectively want to deliver. And I want to thank the organizers anyone who was sitting in the main room an hour or so ago trying to use the Wi-Fi, had very much an airline experience of 2 years ago or 3 years ago where you were connected but couldn't get any data. And so our job as satellite operators is to produce satellites that are capable of delivering more and more and more connectivity for a lower and lower cost per megabit. And that's really our job. The service provider's job is to integrate that with services and portals and tools that fit with the strategy of the airlines. And I think the airline's job is to provide an exceptional customer experience. I think that's Anne's primary goal, is to make sure that when I then become a passenger of Air France KLM and I go on board, I feel that my information is available, that everything is personalized for me, and that it's like moving my home on board the plane. And that's ultimately where that chain is all looking to get us to. We're not there, but we're much, much closer than we were 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, we were using satellites that were relatively generic. They weren't even specifically designed to deliver data. Now we're using satellites that really are designed very much to just deliver data and do it at a lower cost per megabit, which means that when you're on board a plane, you get access to much more of that data, much more of that throughput in order to support your email, in order to support you streaming movies, and in order to support that whole idea of you taking your life with you on board a plane. And that is only going to get better. So we've launched 6 satellites in the last 6 months, which is not typical. And 3 of those satellites have been specifically what we call high throughput satellites. And all 3 of them have been very much tailored for aeronautical services to aircraft. In North America, which is still by a distance the largest market for in-flight connectivity today. In the Americas in general, including transatlantic, and most recently in Asia, which is probably the largest growth market for in-flight connectivity, given that North America is now largely, most airlines have already made their decisions. So it is a market that's growing very, very fast. It's an industry that hasn't got to where it needs to get to yet, at least from my perspective. But I think it's getting there and getting there quickly.
Well, so one of the issues that people like Anne have to deal with is that actually there are many kind of solutions. You have many, both of you have many contenders on that market. And well, we discussed this afternoon that it was just like a matrix of solutions, and you have to pick the right ones. Should I go KU, KA, L-band, S-band, by satellite, ground to air, both, regional, global? So how do you deal with this?
We don't deal. We try to do the best choice at the moment, and when we look at it, after we see, was it the best? But it's true that we face, as an airline, and we are not experts, many different technologies, and we know that technology is moving very fast, so you never know if the choice you make will be good in 3 years' time. But it costs much money. For example, for Air France, deploying connectivity, what we decided on whole our fleet, it's 100 million euros. So it's difficult to be totally, to make errors on those amounts. And each year you have to add the bandwidth cost, that is about very small, around 15 million euros per year. So if you can, yes, make promotion, it will be good.
We're negotiating.
That's it. So it's true that it is a matrix, but the complexity comes from the fact that first, these are huge modifications on your aircraft. You put antennas on your aircraft, you make holes on your aircraft. It's not just adding, I don't know. So you have to have a solution that is compatible, appropriate for your aircraft subtype. And not all are certified, because we are still in the beginning of the adventure. Then if you have an aircraft online fit, for example, our future 350. In fact, when you choose your IFE supplier, your sit-back screen supplier, you don't have many choice left for your connectivity supplier because there are authorized couples and forbidden couples. So in the end, you remain, and of course you have the economic choice because the bandwidth cost can be very different from an operator to another. So when you add all of these constraints, you end up with one or two solutions, that's all. And in the end, and there is also the fact that some provider will be very efficient for medium haul network, for example, in Europe, and other will be more efficient for long haul network. So most airlines have different solutions. And when you add the problems of line fit, availability, certification, you end up with many suppliers. And what we lack in this industry is standards and norms so that independent of the different suppliers, your customer experience and your portal can be a seamless experience.
When you're trying to find the solutions, who is your who are you talking to? Are you talking to the aircraft manufacturer, to a solution provider, to all the steps, all the different steps, and you make your whole market?
You're compelled to do both. To the supplier, you launch an RFP.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a line fit, you have to, for example, for Boeing 787, you talk to Boeing, and for Airbus 350, you talk to Airbus, and they tell you what choices you are allowed to do or not. And in these choices, you will choose with your RFP.
That means that could be an argument for future generation aircraft. Say, oh, I will better go with that one because I can get that type of connection through that. No, not yet.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There is a big piano and a small chair. And
okay.
Okay.
So as a well, Thales is more than just providing avionics. It's you're offering more. How do you deal with this as a facilitator for all these markets?
Well, it's a very complex game. We must recognize it's a very complex game. First of all, because we recognize that the market is maturing. Brand new technology, new capabilities are coming along very quickly on the market, satellite market, and there is a lot of question mark, and I'm pretty sure we will have, I hope we have time to discuss about it, but what would bring the LEO or the MEO in that market will be quite interesting to look at. So really, for us, is really to be at the same time at the cutting edge of technology, both on the cabin and on the cockpit, and to offer the seamless experience by aggregating the technology and the service. And this is important because we are dealing with multiple interface. We must please, of course, the airline, which is our customer on the cabin side, but we must please also the OEM, which are our customer on the cockpit side, and the integrator for the airline on the cabin. We must deal with partners, such as SES, for example. We must deal with different providers that will put forward our application, our portals, etc. And we must provide a level of safety on one side for the cockpit, and a level of availability, reliability, customer experience on the cabin side, providing, of course, all the layers of cyber security. Because we do consider that securing the data and securing the transaction, all the content on the passenger side is as much as important as securing the safety critical data for pilots. And of course, there is no the same game. It can be lives on one side, but it's economics and trust of your passenger on the other side. It's very important. So really, the game is about aggregating everything into a seamless package, or at least the most comprehensive package. And I agree with you, Anne, in the fact that, and it's quite normal regarding the level of maturity of this market, of this segment, but we are lacking norms, we are lacking standards, where all at some point the industry can gather together, and it will be easier for everyone to have such environment.
So, well, You're partnering with Thales on the CS-17 satellite. So you could be just providing bandwidth, but you go deeper into the market. Does that mean that you have the possibility to be competing with your own customers on other? That's
no. So the answer
why do you take the risk?
So the answer to that's no. But I would say that and so I completely agree, by the way, with both the need for and frankly the responsibility of the industry to drive, and I'm not sure if it's standardization, but to take the pain of delivering in-flight connectivity away from the airlines and to make it an easier decision, to make it more straightforward, to step up and provide more of the services that airlines need in order to put connectivity on board planes and operate that connectivity, and enable airlines to do what they do well, which is deliver exceptional experience to passengers. That's what I think Anne wants to be able to do, and I think it's incumbent on us as an industry to do a better job of making those choices easier, but also lowering the barrier to change, because at the moment when Air France makes a decision to go with a particular operator or a particular technology, they're having to invest a lot of capital and they're having to make a decision for a long period of time, and to change that decision if the service provider is terrible is a really hard thing to do. And I think the industry can't rely on that, and in fact it's dangerous if it does. What the industry needs to rely on, what I need to rely on, and what Thales needs to rely on is being an exceptional service provider to the airline. And that is what generates longevity of service and loyalty, such that that service provider can then take Air France through a journey that says, okay, today the right answer might be this satellite, this service provider, this modem, this antenna, but tomorrow it might be something different, and we are going to help you through that evolution as we go from generation 1 to generation 2 to generation 3, because it will happen. There's no one in the audience here that's using an original iPhone, right? And there's a reason for that, because technology does evolve. And what Apple has done, and all technology providers have done, is found a way to allow customers to evolve through technology without it being painful. And because we're relatively early in this game, we haven't figured that out yet, but we will. And that's exactly where our focus is. It's how do we produce and offer a seamless network with standardized hardware that can be upgraded over time, that provides a great glide path for all airlines into higher and higher bandwidths at lower and lower costs, without it being an incredibly painful decision. So, but in short answer to your question, no, the service providers to the aeronautical industry do something very, very different to what SES does. We're very, very happy to partner with them. But it's incredibly important also to spend time directly with airlines so that we really understand what the need is. Because the worst thing that can happen is the satellite manufacturers and satellite operators are building a whole bunch of stuff, and when we talk about investment, so when we make an investment in a new satellite, it's anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion. And when we invest in a new constellation, like we did just less than a year ago, it's probably an investment of $1.5 billion to $2 billion. Or euros. And so these are huge, huge bets that we're making as organizations, huge, huge investment decisions, and not to be informed by the ultimate users, the ultimate source of that demand, would be kind of crazy. So that's why you see satellite operators increasingly want to get a better understanding of the real market, and why great partnerships between operators and service providers is the future and offers airlines the best deal.
If I understand well, there's someone lacking in this panel. It's the aircraft manufacturers, because apparently you want to choose a system. You have to drill holes in the frame of your aircraft to put the antennas, and if you change, you have to remove it, close the holes, drill new ones to install a new system, more or less, or more or less. Okay, I am a candidate here.
Yeah, there is a norm, a standard that is ARINC, I don't know how. Thank you. But in the real world, what you're telling happens, yes.
Because well, if the planes were designed to be able to handle these systems before, even before you make the choice of the frequency or if you're looking up and down, or both?
Well, yeah. If in the future generation of aircraft, they could embed the possibility of having many generations of technology, yes, it would be better. But at the time being, you have different types of antennas, so the aerodynamic drag is different depending on the antenna. So it's still very moving, so that each certification on each aircraft subtype is different. And we are in aviation. It's always something difficult. We see on a mature technology
planes are supposed to fly for 3 decades.
Yes, but when we buy a seat for a retrofit or line fit, when we buy a screen, when we buy anything on board, it has to be certified. So I imagine that some years ago with the first IFA systems, it was also very difficult. And so it's just the fact that we are beginning to learn together to build this technology, and it will mature like the other ones. But I don't think it will be like on the ground. It remains in an aircraft, so you need certification, and the process will also will always be a bit complex.
No, and I totally agree with that. But I think if you look at parallels in other industries, there's no question that as the industry matures, the process gets more simple, it becomes more standardized, and what ultimately prevails is the best service provider. So the aircraft manufacturers don't want to make life difficult for their customers, right? They want to give them choices, and they want them to give them the choices that they want. And I think it's, again, as we develop better and better and more performant solutions, as they become more cost-effective over time, I'm confident that the best systems and the best partnerships will ultimately be the ones that become that get installed, and performance and cost effectiveness will become the things that really make those decisions. At the moment, there's a lot of complexity. I think that complexity will reduce over time. I think the service providers will likely consolidate. I think that's what typically happens as industries mature. I think solutions will become more similar. I suspect actually that we will end up largely in one band, because for me there's only one that makes ultimate sense long term. And all of these things will contribute to what you're saying, which is what Anne's saying, which is it needs to be an easier, the decision as to what system to put on board needs to be easier, and the decision to be able to swap it out if it's not performing needs to be easier, and that's our job.
So you say one band will prevail?
I think so.
I have a slight different view on this one. Yes, we can imagine that one band will prevail on the cabin side. There will be still some requirements about safety for the cockpit, and I'm sure you understand it's not your core business, but the L-band and the development of the L-band and the work we have done with our FlightLink product shows that it's very interesting what's happening on the cockpit side. I know it's not main business, and it doesn't concern us as passenger, but for pilots it will bring a lot of value. And it's also a way to generate not revenue for airlines, but to generate savings in order by using this link, dedicated link, to continue to improve safety first, because this is a pillar of aviation, and secondly also to deliver operational efficiency in terms of fuel savings, having the latest weather reports on board and everything. So I guess, and for some time, I don't know what will be the case of course in 15 years, but for some times we will have still a segregation between the cabin and the cockpit, and probably it will lead to have two different bands because they have two different characteristics. On one hand, you are looking for high power, high bandwidth, lowest cost. On the other hand, you are looking for safety. You are not looking for bandwidth, but you are looking for safety, and you are looking for the 4 nines availability all around the globe. Yeah,
no, and I think that's right. And I'm really, so those systems kind of exist, and I think they'll become enhanced over time, but they will never be able to provide anything like the kind of connectivity and the broadband nature of the connectivity that's demanded in all other ways. And I think what's going to happen is once that broadband connection is available on every single plane, once that becomes commonplace, which it will, I think we'll see more and more applications being developed, more and more value being passed on to customers, more and more creativity from airlines, and frankly, more of that information, more of the avionic information, more of the information about how the engines are performing, the maintenance requirements of the planes, what needs to happen to the planes when they land, the amount of data that is generated and is potentially and can be generated on board planes that isn't being provided in real time is enormous. And there's huge value in doing that. We're not yet at the stage where that data is being collected, sorted, connected, and provided back in a way to provide insights to whoever might be interested in that data. But we're not very far away. And so what needs to happen and can now, we can see the future at least, is that when planes are genuinely connected all the time to a broadband connection, there's a lot more value and a lot more things can be delivered that don't currently fall under, let's say, passenger services and don't currently fall under the kind of the umbrella of safety and really narrowband connectivity. And that's really exciting. I think it will change. It'll change our ability to. It'll change the aeronautical industry. It'll change the airline industry. And there are going to be 8 billion travelers in 15, 20 years' time rather than 4 billion today. So, I mean, this industry is huge, is growing, and any optimization, any more intelligence that we can build into that industry is going to be massive. And when you think that planes spend most of the time in the air, if they're not connected and they're not connected to a broadband connection, you're losing a ton of incredibly valuable information that can completely transform the way Air France, for example, operates.
Just to complete, if you may, I totally agree. I think we don't have yet the good business model. The suppliers of connectivity are under economic pressure. We can see it because they have to invest massively. They have a big growth. So the negotiations are just a nightmare. For the airline, as I said, it's expensive. The customers, they don't want to pay for such a long time. But at the time, we are compelled to make them pay just because of quality. If you offer it to everyone, quality would be so bad. And the costs are huge for the airlines. But I think that we will make huge savings or huge revenues, but it's just that we don't have developed them yet. I was talking about retail on board. I'm sure there are studies that talk about $18 billion of revenue for the airlines. I don't know if it's just a fancy figure or if it will happen in 10 years' time, but we see the digital retail on the ground. So the maintenance could be much more efficient. When we're talking about fuel optimization, there are huge figures behind this. So maybe it is so difficult now because we don't have the right business model. And we will find more and more usage and more value. And I think we will build the right business model in some years.
So we are talking about something like 20,000 planes to be equipped for the next 8 or 10 years. So I understand that you see one band prevailing, I guess the one with the smaller antennas that gives less drag.
And higher performance.
And higher performance. You see the market consolidating as it is maturing. But technology evolves rapidly, and there are some people coming that could add some more disruption in this business. Well, I think about the new constellations that are proposed, like OneWeb or Elon Musk's Starlink. Do you think they could disrupt this? And regarding the band, I've been discussing a lot with people in Boeing who are working on the Q and V band, saying that, okay, there is attenuation with rain, but the planes are most of the time above the rain.
Yeah, look, I mean, and I don't think this is the panel for Satellite 101, so I won't. But I think all of the constellations that are coming promise something. So we operate the only broadband constellation today, and we operate it in medium Earth orbit, and we operate it equatorially, which means we spend almost all of our time delivering services to customers. One of the challenges as you go closer to the Earth is your satellites see much less of the Earth, and that means you need hundreds of them. And I talked about the kind of investment that we need to make to launch geostationary satellites or medium Earth orbit satellites. Constellation operators will need to invest 5 billion, and in the case of SpaceX, 10 billion in order to put these constellations up, and they're very, very sort of technically and economically uncertain. So that said, I think it's awesome that these guys are looking at using satellite technology to develop these kinds of services. I'm a skeptic when it comes to LEO, and I've been one for years, but that doesn't mean that I don't hope actually that these things do develop, and because I think disruption is good, and if we don't continue to, you know, it's easy to be a little bit negative about the kind of services that we deliver, but bear in mind this industry is probably at best 5 years old, maybe 3 years old. It wasn't very long ago where the average connectivity to a plane was about 500 kilobits. It's now closer to 6 megabits. That's huge in terms of what it's taken. And if I look at a related industry, if you look at the cruise industry, if you went on a cruise ship even 2 years ago, you would have been sharing a 2 megabit connection with 6,000 other people. I don't share a 2 megabit connection with my 12-year-old daughter. But now, if you go on a cruise ship, and most of the major cruise lines, you'll have a connectivity to that ship of half a gig. And that's, again, a giant, giant difference in terms of capability. And we're on that path in aeronautical. So I think it's going to take a little while for this industry to mature. And the continued disruption is actually what we need. We need to keep driving ultimately to a place where I do get, and you all get, to go on board a plane, to bring your own device, to stream whatever you want to stream, to read your own emails in your own environment. And I don't think, we're not that far away from that. And all of the additional services that enables for airlines, I do want to do shopping and pick, the minute I walk off the plane, I've forgotten to buy something for my wife, and the minute I step off the plane, it's waiting for me. I can't do that today. In the not too distant future, that service will exist, I'm sure.
You will be saving couples.
Yeah. Saving marriages.
That's what we do every day.
So, are there any questions in the audience?
Thank you for the most interesting conference of the day. Benjamin from Startup Accelerator. I just had a question on the long term. I can find it. So you told that the business model was not evident today. How does each of your organization make sure that you are benefiting from the long-time value brought by connectivity? If you take the parallel with phone operators or hardware manufacturer in the tech industry, they are all moving to our contents. So how do you make sure of that? Thanks.
Well, I said that the business case was difficult, but it exists right now. That's why we convince all our CEOs to go for a connectivity deployment. I think that the first added value for the airline, except for the customer satisfaction that has its own value, of course, it's partnerships. You have a connectivity portal. You have all. It's evident. It's obvious what I say, but you have all your audience captive during the flight. At the time being, internet is still a paid service for most of your customers on board. So you can focus their attention on certain websites. So you can have a commission-based partnership. And the first value, you will have it with your partners. Some US airlines, they are more in advance compared to European airlines. For connectivity, they are partnering with Amazon. Amazon is paying the Wi-Fi for the customer. So to allow the customer to just order on Amazon or benefit from Amazon Prime or something. Others are partnering with Netflix, same model. So the first added value is partners. So we have to hunt for the good partnerships. And then we are digging on all the other business cases. Because saving money on your maintenance, it has a value. It's bringing a better information for your connecting passengers and bringing the rerouting solutions very quickly, proactively, and bringing them in flight coming to Charles de Gaulle and not having to queue at a desk to wait for a solution. That's a huge value for our customer, and it saves us time, money, because you don't have all the frontline staff. So these technologies are really bringing value. And when you add the bricks, I think that the business case, even now, even with huge prices from the satellite providers, it is there.
I'm Jean-François Gault, co-founder of Satcom One, a service provider on the business aviation. And now I'm currently chairman of Airmont. I have a question for you, Anne, with regards to the ergonomy of payment for the passengers. What do you expect as the ergonomy of payment for the passenger, credit card or other means?
Well, that's a tough subject. Antoine could help me on that one. We are looking for a seamless experience in terms of payment, and we have many providers coming to see us and say, hey, we have the good solution, and when we dig, there is no perfect solution on the shelf. What we want to have, first, connectivity allow you to have higher amounts, for example, for your duty-free. At the time being, you're capped at a certain level. So it's a first benefit, small one, but first benefit. What we want to have as a payment experience is that the customer can order something when you have buy on board or for duty-free or anything, and pay it on his personal device, either on the IFE or on his smartphone. And then it comes to the cabin crew that just have to deliver it. And just to do this, it seems to be very simple, but we are struggling for 1-2 years to achieve it. Because at the time being in a flight, the time the cabin crew spend when there is buy on board to just the payment transaction is huge. And we need the cabin crew time to be in relation with the customers and not to cash the payments. So we are looking for this solution. There are bricks, but no one has the real solution, and it will depend, once again, on your IFE provider, IFC provider. So we need a solution able to be agile and integrate different types of IFE and different types of IFC. I don't know if I'm clear, but if you have it, we are interested.
Regarding IFE, I had a question again for you, sorry. There has been a trend in some airlines to dismantle the IFE to replace it by a Wi-Fi server, which saves hundreds of kilograms of cables, which translates in savings on fuel in the end. What is Air France's view on that?
Well, my view, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but first, as I said, on narrow body, we are not used in Europe to have sit-back screen, so connectivity brings entertainment without any screen. On long haul, our conviction is that we won't remove the screens in the short or medium term, but we will be able to add the streaming solution on the personal device. Why? Because in some aircraft, some IFE are quite old, and like technology is moving, even if your aircraft has been retrofitted very recently, in 2 years' time you will have a new tablet that will have much more definition. So our conviction is that we must provide the same content on the, or almost the same, on the IFE and on the streaming solution in the cabin to allow the customer to choose. And that's what some airlines, for example, Delta does. And the customers, they also like to have two screens. One screen, for example, for the movie, and then another one to see the aircraft route. So we think our goal is to have this kind of experience on our long haul.
Is there any other question in the audience?
Hi, Jamie Porkham from Thales. Connectivity is obviously a primary driver, and so is cybersecurity, because with connectivity has to come cybersecurity. But what about all the other digital technologies, like most notably big data and AI? How are those going to be driven into the equation, and specifically for the cockpit, but also for the cabin?
I can certainly answer that one. You mentioned it, I think, in your speech, Steve. Is really the fourth type of connectivity that is not yet developed. Is how we bring down all the data that are generated by the aircraft. And today is done by the engine manufacturers. Is done by the OEM only at gate. And so it's not real-time monitoring. It's offline data. So we can build on that platforms, digital platforms, to really have the data analytics and to find out new services. And this is what we are currently doing in Thales, because we have invested recently in companies that are really specialists in data analytics. But I think the next step, and if we come back to the original subject of the roundtable, is how we go a step further, is when connectivity and when the ecosystem will be ready, and there is a question about, of course, certification, but to download also real-time critical data from the aircraft. And we're not talking about dozens, we're talking about thousands of such parameters, because it will allow to have this real-time monitoring of what's going on the aircraft, about either the cabin or the cockpit, all the parameters of the aircraft, or the most significant one, and to really put that into the lake, and to have all the real-time analytics to making sure that we can detect even weak signals that will really threshold the fact that we need to change such a spare part, or we need to prevent such a maintenance. So we are really entering into the preventive maintenance world, and it's a huge world for savings for airlines at the end.
And I'd say I don't think we're very far away from that world. I mean, in terms of the capability to be able to do that, I think, you know, we've said there's whatever, 5,000 planes connected, another 15,000 that need to be. But we're getting to a point now where the population is large enough, and particularly for the major airlines, where big data, effectively gathering the data that becomes available on board, sorting it, which is the key, right? It's being able to figure out what's important in that data, what's important in that analysis, and feed that back in such a, in fast enough to allow decisions to be taken as a result. We're not very far away from that world, and I think it will drive a huge amount more demand for connectivity, but more importantly, I think it'll drive a huge amount of productivity and valuable information for airlines. And I almost feel like we need to learn from the experience of rolling out connectivity and not make that same mistake in kind of the rollout of analytics. I suspect we will, but sort of be ahead of the game and try and make that as common and seamless and useful now as we possibly can for the airlines. And that's really kind of, I think Thales and companies like Thales, that's really your forte. And certainly from my perspective, I would love for that to be kind of available now, because it is in other industries. If you look at the oil and gas industry or a number of other industries, they're really using sensors and detectors and information in real time and really using that information to make decisions. The airline industry would benefit from that more than any other that I can think of, given the amount of time that planes spend in the air. So I really think, as much as I want to be able to, watch Netflix or do my email while on board, I think that there are really, really important things that we also, as an industry, need to make sure that we're enabling through this connectivity.
Can I add something? I'm sorry, but it's very important. Your question, connectivity for an airline, enables us to, thanks to the connectivity portal, give chatbots. We are developing plenty of chatbots based on IA, and they would not be available on board without any connectivity. It gives us also the opportunity to collect data, and we can imagine in the very near future that the customer will order its meal, or whether paying or not, on the connectivity portal, and then we can collect data and know what they prefer, because it's very difficult at the time being to have the data, and know what we have to put in the catering, in the choices, what they prefer depending on the personal data. And the portal will be totally, our goal is to have a portal totally personalized depending on which customer we are talking to. So AI, it is at the base of all this.
And just as I'm told to conclude, I wanted just to mention that this world is really around the corner, because 2 months ago there was a presentation in Paris by Rolls-Royce about their smart engine. There was a very good article in Aerospatial about that. Regarding the possibilities with connectivity and artificial intelligence and machine learning, the engine will be able to say, oh, this part might fail in the next 20 cycles, call the support system and see on which of my next airport there will be the possibility to get the technician and the part and remove it, change it before it fails. And it's in the plan. They're preparing it for really short time in the future. Okay, I thank you. You were a wonderful audience, and thank you to all my panelists.